Welcome back to the Advent of Fortran. If you are getting tired of watching me struggle with GNU Make for the last few days and getting obscure Make error messages, you'll be happy to know that from here on out, I'll only be getting obscure CMake error messages. I completely changed my build system, so now I'm using CMake instead of Make. I also tried FPM briefly earlier today. Let me check my stream real quick. Looks like I'm live. Is my audio working? Cool. Everything is good. So, I think FPM could have worked, but with the way that I want to have a library and then a different program for each day, with each program building independently but also linking to the library, it seemed that CMake was the easiest way to do that. Make was also possible, but I was really not satisfied with a couple things. First of all, I had to clean in between switching from debug to release or vice versa. So if I look at what this used to look like, I used to have make files, and I don't have make files anymore. It's just CMake lists. So if I go back in the history, we should be able to find that. At some point, I still had the make files in here, but I just wasn't using them, and then I finally removed them. So where is it? Oh yeah, here we go. Remove FPM and make files. So I did have a make file, but it always used the same build directory. Whether you were doing debug or release, it always used the same builder. So that means you have to clean in between switching from debug to release, and that's inconvenient. We tried a couple things. I guess it was the last stream, or maybe even 2 streams ago, where I put in a bunch of duplicate rules. You had like release objects and debug objects, and then that did sort of let you have separate build folders for each configuration, but I had to like double the length of my make file, and that was not worth it in my opinion, because then you get bugs where you like change something in release and you forget to change it in the copied debug version. So I didn't like that, and I also didn't like the dependencies. This one is fine because there's really only one source file, but if we go to the other make file, this make file, I've expanded my library quite a bit. So it used to be we had utils and blarg, and then we had args, and that was it. It was just those 3 source files, and args and blarg both depended on utils. And since then, earlier today, I added these map functions for hash map classes in Fortran. And there are interdependencies there too. So map depends on all of the individual map types. This is just sort of like a container of all the map types. It doesn't really have anything in it by its own. Each one of these defines a map for a specific value type. A hash map, in case you don't remember, it maps a string to some value. So the values can be I32 or I64 or a string. Hey, Bad Cop, welcome back to the stream. So there were interdependencies there. And you can define these rules, and that works, but this is not dry at all, because you also have a dependency order with the order that you list the source files here. So utils is at the top because everything else depends on utils. And this works if you list them in this order, but if you put utils at the end and then you clean, it won't build, because it tries to build utils last. It tries to build other things that depend on utils first, but it can't because they don't have a built dependency. So you have like dependency rules here, and you have dependency rules here. like I have the object files depending on the source, but it's a mess. Maybe I won't get into it. I was really starting to dislike this. So I tried FPM. I think FPM could have worked, but maybe the only way that this could have worked is if I had like one build system for the entire project. That means when I want to build one executable for one day, I have to build every executable for all of the other days at the same time. And if I happen to make a breaking change in utils where like the day that I'm working on would work, but some day that I did like a year ago doesn't work anymore, that might not really work. So I didn't want to have a build system like that. Maybe there's some other way to get this working with FPM. You would think that like you could build a library in one directory and then independently build your executables in a separate directory and just link to the library without saying, hey, build this library from scratch. That might be possible in FPM. I tried, I couldn't figure it out. There was FPM external modules. There was some stuff in the documentation that made me think maybe it's not possible at all. But maybe I just don't understand it. So if we look for, why would I want to translate from Czech? I don't know why that popped up. External. Where was this note? It wasn't this one. I think it was about module files. And modules are kind of what Fortran has instead of header files in C, except the module files are automatically generated. Yeah, this is the note that scared me. Why is this in Czech? US, EN? Do they only have this documented in Czech? But like most of it is English. Yeah, I don't know why part of this page is in Czech, but the important stuff is in English. So that's all I need to understand. So this makes me think that it doesn't work. Include dir does not currently allow using pre-built mod files. Bottom left. Oh, there we go. Well, that URL, they just have a double slash. That is so weird. The double slash doesn't do anything though. Maybe this is not the URL that I edited in manually. Okay. Yeah, that's weird. I thought I tried that. I guess another part of the URL was different. So include dirs. Basically, I want to have a way of using pre-built module files, and this is saying it's not currently possible. So maybe FPM wouldn't work the way that I wanted it to. So I did go to CMake. Yeah, I just love the web. I saw a post on Threads today. Somebody was talking about how like it's amazing that Chrome eats up a gigabyte per tab, and yet the developers of GTA 5 made it work on the PlayStation 3 where they're limited to like 256 megabytes of RAM. The web is insane. So I have a CMake build system now. I did a lot of that off stream. Let me clean everything and demo the CMake build system. So we have a build directory here with like debug. The way that I wanted to make to work, I have separate binary output folders for both configurations. And then my static library is in there. There's also a release version if I've built it. Yep, that one also exists. And then there are the module files, which FPM was being a pain about. So I can clean that. And then I can also go back and run day 11 as a demo. So I'll clean this build directory too. It's the same idea. It has, well, I've only built debug apparently. I can close that Docker file. That's not important. So I can clean this, and then let's see if I remember how to build CMake. It's CMake. What I don't like about CMake is that you have to do the configuration step and then the make step. Make a bash script that lets me watch a Twitch stream in VLC or MPV. That would be cool. I don't know what MPV is, but I guess it's something like VLC. I saw Dave had like his music player, Linux video player. Okay. I saw Dave had that music player where he can go to his album and then select a track from the album. That's pretty cool. I had no idea that you could like stream audio with just Bash. I guess it has some kind of dependency, but regardless, it's pretty cool. So CMake, you need like the source directory. There's some longer form, but I only remember the short form of the arg, which is capital S. My source directory is dot, and then my build directory, I guess I want it to be build debug, because debug is the default configuration. So this does the configuration, which doesn't actually build. I wish there was a way to just run CMake in one step, but I always have to make a script to do that. So I do have a script for this, but I'll show the individual commands. So that does the configuration, and then that should create a makefile. I was using ffplay. I'm not familiar with ffplay either. Probably don't. Oh, I do have it. That's weird. Has a lot of help. It's like, or it's the ffmpeg one. Yeah, I do have ffmpeg installed. Oh yeah, they've got all the filter documentation in ffmpeg format. So I should have, yeah, so what CMake does is it generates the makefile for you, and then you don't have to manually deal with makefiles. So then to build that, or to make that makefile, you have to do a separate command. You could just go to this directory and then run make, but CMake can work with multiple build systems. It can generate makefiles, or it can generate Visual Studio solutions, or whatever Xcode has, or different build systems like Ninja, or other things that also run on Linux. So you could build that with a manual make command, but if you want to do it like the general CMake way, it's --build, and then the folder. And I think that's all that I need. I could optionally do a config, which would have to be debug because I set that at the makefile generation step. I think these are the only arguments that I need. Nope. Build. I might have to cheat. Build. Oh, yeah, I put the wrong directory. So it's CMake build /debug. And that starts building, and then it makes my program main. So now I have this. By default, it doesn't go into this directory, but I made it put the executable in the current directory. It seems easier to run things that way. So that does debug, and then I forget what I have to do. It was in the script. If you want to change from debug to release, you have to configure it differently. So you have to do -define CMake build type equals either config or either debug or release, and I have this set up so that it just does debug by default. Yeah, so I think I'm satisfied with this build system. I'm not the biggest fan of CMake, but it's like the lesser of several evils. It just works the best, at least for this project. So that's the build system, and then I think I would like to do one of the easier Advent code problems because I still need more helper functions that I need to build out. I already talked about my library. I have like hash map functions or hash map classes now for several different types. There are a bunch of helpers and utils. Eventually, I need sorting routines. I don't think I have any sorting functions yet. I can check utils. Yeah, nothing for sorting yet, so I will need that. I can copy that over from something. But I think that I would like to do day 7, if I have the day right. Day 7 is this problem. So a lot of advent of code problems, bin/sort, yeah, shell out. That's interesting, because in Syntran, I used to not have sorting functions either, and I would kind of want to just shell out instead of porting a sort function to Syntran. But like I can't call system, I can't make system calls or shell out to anything in Syntran. I just don't have a way to do that. But in Fortran I could, so that is an option. This problem doesn't require sorting though, but what it does require is loading a grid. So I just want to have a helper function that reads this as a matrix of characters. That should be pretty easy, but this might be a relatively short stream tonight, so this seems like a manageable task. So I have read line, and I don't know, I don't think I have read file. I can use read line to help me load a character grid. Or I might just write everything from scratch, I don't know. So in Syntran, I called this read char mat. I'm just going to name it the same function. It's going to take a file unit. Actually, I would rather just take a file name. So the file name is a string. And then integer, I guess I should make this optional. And the return argument, I think that should work as a character matrix. So I need the size of the file, or I need, yeah, now I either have to make a dynamic matrix, or I push one row at a time to it, or I need to just make 2 passes over the file. I think making 2 passes is easier. I do have a dynamic vector type. Do I have a dynamic vector type? I have a string vector. I might not have, and yeah, I guess I don't have any other vectors. So dynamic matrices are a little bit more of a pain, because then there's a question of, do you want to push rows to it, or do you want to push columns? I think I typically push, I forget, like it has implications on the memory layout of your language. Like Fortran is row major and C is column major, or vice versa. So like the way you do it in one language isn't the way that you would want to do it efficiently in Fortran. So I think it's easier to make 2 passes to count the lines. Do I already have, I don't even have a count line function. I guess I have to make that. So let me just comment this out so that the linter isn't always yelling at me. I have to count the lines first. Count line, it's going to take a file name as well. In fact, it's basically going to have the same signature, except for the return value. result end line. Okay, so I think we can read, we don't actually need to read the whole line. We can read one character and then Fortran will just advance to the next line as long as we open it like an ASCII file. Do I open anything here? I think I can steal this open line. File input output is a little bit weird in Fortran. Basically, everything is a statement. There's an open statement and a close statement, and then there are read and write statements. These should all be functions or subroutines, but for some reason they're statements in Fortran. Like you used to have a print statement in Python 2, and then they changed it to a print function in Python 3 and broke everything. Fortran just still has all the statements, even if they don't make sense if you're only familiar with other languages. So this is a statement. It looks weird, but you learn it. You look at your old code and just copy and paste, and it works. So we have open. I need to declare everything here, or just IU, I guess. Then what do I do with IOStat? I want to check if it's present because it's optional. You know what? I don't care if this crashes. It's advent of code. This doesn't need to be developed like a library. This can just crash if the file doesn't exist. Yeah, so I'm not going to worry about that. And then we do an infinite loop. And we read from more programs should crash more often. Yeah, Rust is like obsessed with safety. Everything has to be safe, and if it's unsafe, you have to say that it's unsafe. Just let it crash. It's not a big deal. The worst thing is like continuing to execute with an invalid state. That's much worse than crashing. I don't think at the language level. Yeah, maybe not. So we read from the file unit, and then I guess I have to read a string specifically. That's what the quote parenthesis A means. That means read a string. And I'm just going to read one character. So I read a character, and I have to check if we get to the end of the file or not. So I do need one of these variables. You like Rust? I think I'm too stupid for Rust. I don't understand the borrow checker. Maybe I should give Rust another chance. I've done some C++. I don't really know all of the smart pointer types in C++, like smart pointer, weak pointer, unique pointer. I don't understand the differences between those things. Oh, yeah, doing a lot of C++. Right, because there are pitfalls in C++. You can do the wrong thing and shoot yourself in the foot, but Rust sort of stops you from doing that. I think I haven't done enough C++ to be at that point. Yeah. So I read a character. I can check if we got to the end of the file. So if IO is not exit success, or if it's not just 0, you could also just hard code a 0 there, then we break out of this loop, and break is called exit in Fortran for some weird reason. Same reason that everything is a statement instead of a function. Sometimes those parts of Rust are annoying. Yeah, because you already know the pitfalls, and you're like, okay, why can't I just do that? Yeah, that's the issue that I run into with the borrow checker. I'm like, why can't I just have this other function? Why can't I pass a pointer to this function? Like, I'm not trying to move anything. I'm not even trying to modify anything, but the borrow checker stops me, and I just don't understand it. So we read, and then we increment the line. This might be off by 1. I think that's basically the count line function. So does that work? It's because the borrow checker is only so smart. Well, I'm not even smart enough to outsmart the borrow checker, so I don't know what that says about me. We're doing day 7, I think. I need to copy the input. Yeah, it needs your help to understand what you're doing is fine. Like, you have to declare things as... You don't have to declare things as immutable because that's the default, but you have to do something like that, or promise that you're not going to move the data or change the pointer. So I need to go to day 7. I also think it's time... I don't know. I need to work on a new day script for this project, but for now I'm just manually copying one day to another and then deleting everything. Block scoping certain things. Oh, yeah, that's a trick. Yeah, I used to not know that you can just do anonymous blocks in C or C++. Maybe I can demo that. Let's make a directory anyway. How do I do hello world in C? Include stdio. Okay, there's hello world. I didn't understand that you can have... You could just make an extra block for no reason. I used to think that you always had to have like an if statement or a for loop before a block. I didn't know that you can just make blocks for no obvious reason. And then you can have like variables that only live inside that block. And then it's nice because you can re-declare things that are already declared in another block. So if I'm copying and pasting a chunk of code where it declares something at the top, I can just put that in a block, and then I don't have to be like, oh, I declared it this time, so I can't declare it again. This has to be like just I equals 7. So sometimes that's convenient. I don't know if that's anything like what you were talking about with working around the borrow checker. About the way people do C macros. I don't think so. Oh, like they put a random set of parentheses around things for what seems like no good reason, but it actually helps the macro in case you have it in the middle of arithmetic where it would like bind to one part of your macro more than the macro binds to itself. You have a multiple statement macro. I probably haven't really done anything that complicated. Oh, yeah, yeah, I did. I think I saw Tsoding do that. He demoed like a dynamic vector structure, and he wrapped it in do while zero. I don't think I understood why though. Like I don't understand why you couldn't just put that in a block, and why it has to be a do while zero block. Yep, that's the thing. So it expands into a regular statement and not a compound statement. Oh yeah, like there are no brackets in this if, or no braces. The second approach. Oh yeah. So this was my question. Like, why don't you just make it a block instead of a do while block? Oh, because of the semicolon. Oh, because there's not a semicolon here. That's so weird. Yeah, so you can't put a semicolon after the while zero. This guy didn't either. So it's weird that he's pointing that out. Or just the first version. Oh, maybe edited, yeah. Oh, right, like the person who asked the question edited. Yeah. Well, this is a problem solved by Python and JavaScript, right? Just don't use a semicolon as the statement terminator. I'm joking. That's hell for me. I need some explicit marker of the end of the statement, even for me as a human. JavaScript does a more cursed thing. Everything in JavaScript is cursed. Yeah, it has semicolons, but they're just optional. Except sometimes, oh, they will be injected for you? That's weird. All right. So I think I don't need that. Let me copy what I had for day 11. Oh, it's called ASI. Like the semicolon injection. Actually, what do I have in day 11? There's a bunch of stuff that I want to copy. I think I want to copy basically everything but the input and the test input. And the binaries. So get rid of that. Okay, and then instead of downloading my inputs, I'm just going to copy them from the other repo. AOC syntran, get AOC syntran 2025 day 7. And then are those, okay, I have the decrypted versions. All right. I'm in day 7. And then I don't need a map. And that's the template for part 1. And then I just want to delete part 2. And delete this stuff. And then comment out the call to part 2. And this needs to be my template. I'll fill these in a second. So I should be able to run that. And this is going to echo, yeah, that's echoing the big input. And if I use the test input, there's the test input. So I just need a way to load that. All right, what's this JavaScript ASI? Oh, automatic semicolon insertion. Yeah, I did not know about this. Programming language polygamist and not a programming language polyglot. Weird. Maybe a better word. I don't know. I guess they could mean different things. Interesting. Right, so I should be able to count. Oh, you're monogamous with Bash. That's good. All right, so I wanted to count line. I have the function. I'm just not sure if it works. So let's call it, I'm writing syntran. We don't have let here. So ny is count line file name. Then I need to declare that. I don't have these. I don't have a source or sinks today. All right. Let's see if that's right. So we have 16 lines. And it's right. It's not even off by 1. It's actually 16. So that seems to work. So I'm going to have a grid of characters G. And we're going to call this function on, which we're going to call this function that we haven't written yet. So yeah, not test.c. It's going to go into utils. So now I'm ready to uncomment this. And we're going to use count line to get the size of the grid that we're going to return. And then I also want to read the first line. And I need to open before I read line. Is read line a function? Yeah, it's a function. It's right there. So line equals read line unit. This is optional, so I don't need to give that argument. Whoa, it's VJ. Hey, VJ. Welcome to the stream. Let me hide my linter errors. Those are embarrassing. So I need a string for this, for the line. All right, that's declared. And now the linter warnings are back. So the length of the line is going to be the number of characters in the X dimension of the grid. How's Fortran going? It's going pretty good, I think. Yeah, whatever I'm doing here, it's not going to be as exciting as those highlight reels that I posted to threads. So no physics demos, no music demos. I'm just working on Advent of code. So I've solved this problem already in another language, but so it's really not a challenge. But now I'm solving this in Fortran. I'm literally saving Christmas. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't downplay it. Helping the elves and the cephalopods save Christmas. I might be able to get through this without referencing my other solution in a different language, so we'll see if I can do that. But I might have to cheat. I might just look at my own code. Christmas is pretty soon. Yeah, well, I thought I was going to be working on this anyway, but then we got a 12-day Advent of code, so I've got to extend it. So I should be able to do the length of the string. Let's see if I get that correct. I think I do have to return something. So I'm going to allocate the matrix size nx by ny. And let's just set it to all dots. Your internal clock is so messed up. Of like what day it is or what time it is. Oh, 4:30, but it feels like midnight. That's rough. Okay, so we did get the number of lines correct earlier. Now it's saying the number of characters in the x direction is 15. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, yeah, so it's not actually a square. It's 15 by 16, or 16 by 15, whichever way you want to transpose that. So I don't actually want to initialize it there. Now I want to go line by line and put these strings into a character matrix. So we loop through the lines. Of course, Fortran doesn't have for loops. It has do loops, but it's the same thing. And we've already read the first line. So we do have to read the next line, but that's going to go at the end of the loop. And then we just iterate over x. And then mat xy equals line. This is really weird. If you want to get one character out of a string in Fortran, you would think that you could just do that. But I'm pretty sure it doesn't work. We'll test it in a second, but you actually have to slice a substring even if it's just one character long. I've always found this super annoying. Oh, bash is this. That's so weird. I thought this was like a Fortran only problem. So that should get the matrix, and then I guess we can just print it. We don't have to pretty format it yet. I need to declare X. All right. And then, yeah, this is the matrix as one big string because that's just the default way for it to be formatted. But we have an S up here, then we have one of these carets, and then we have two of these carets. It seems correct. Let's reformat that back into a matrix. So I think I need a helper for that as well. I have one for integers and reals, but I don't have characters. And my naming is inconsistent because this is print mat I32, but then the reader is read care mat. Maybe I want to rename this read mat care for consistency. Bash would be string. Yeah, the bash syntax is so confusing for me. I have to look it up every single time. I don't remember if it's start and length or start and end. Oh yeah, so it's start and length. In Fortran, it's start and end. Yeah, let me rename this read mat care. And let's not print here. Let's print in the caller. It's G. And then, right, I just renamed this. So read mat care, print mat care. We'll have a message and then the actual matrix. So then I need to define this. Does this exist? Why do I not get a linter error? That's weird. That should be an error. Oh, it's just an undefined reference. I think, is this not implicit none? I think that should be an error. I don't know why it isn't. Oh, yeah, I didn't put any of these proper compiler flags into the CMake build script yet. So I think that's why it's not an error. I don't even remember what this is named in CMake. CMake Fortran compile flags. I tend to like these Copilot results, but they take so long to load. Yeah, Fortran flags. That sounds right. This is what I'm going to want by default. Yeah, that's... No, it's the same thing. Well, it's a linker error. It should be a compiler error, though. I would think. Implicit none. I think I need some other flag. I think I had it and deleted it. It's got to be implicit something. Implicit external. F implicit none. Maybe that's it. Is it even... It is recompiling, but then it tries to link. I don't know. I think I should not get distracted by this. So... I'm not typing all that. W error equals implicit interface. There we go. It's compiling. It didn't even go to the link step, and it says this procedure needs an implicit interface. It's weird that that just doesn't get checked by default. I think there's so much legacy code that just depends on having implicit functions that are, defined somewhere, but there's not really an explicit interface. Because Fortran doesn't really have header files. And we do have modules now, but they only got modules in 1990. So there were like 30 or 40 years where everything just depended on requiring implicit interfaces. Basically functions that you're calling that haven't been declared. Yeah, modules in 1990. When did C++ get them? Like 2020? Fortran is 30 years ahead of C++, or roughly 30. I don't know exactly when C++ got them. Yeah, we got them in 20. You still have yet to get them. Like, do they work at all? Or is it just some compilers support them and others don't? Or do they work but nobody uses them? Oh, they work in MSVC. It's kind of surprising that Microsoft is the furthest ahead. Or maybe they're only leading in that one feature. All right, so I think I also want to get a linter error. So I have to change my NeoVim config, put this compile flag in here. What was it? It's kind of long. Everyone else has partial support. I'm gonna have to, I think there's a way to like resource in NeoVim, but I'm just gonna close it and reopen. And this is the wrong directory. Print mat. There we go. There's a linter error. That's what I wanted. All right, so I have to define that. I think I can take the integer one and just modify that. Now are these... Yeah, I think this should be named consistently. All right, that's copied, and then we're gonna have print mat care. And I think all I need to do is change the type. Character. Yeah, that should work. Oh, this has to match. It seems to compile. And then what happened? Oh, it's the format. Right, this is not an integer. I think I just want to print string. Not sure what this will look like. Ah, it's transposed. I guess I want a transpose option. Let's do it the right way first. And then give this function like a fancy optional argument as to whether or not we want it to be transposed. So just put the loops in the other order. I think that's all there is to it. The sizes should be correct. All right, no longer transposed. It's not even flipped left and right. It's just the same as the input. So that's good. All right, I guess we'll give this an optional transpose argument. I don't want to name it that because that's a built-in function. We're going to add one underscore there. And then because it's optional, we're going to have another one with 2 underscores. Fortran has what I think is a pretty weird convention for optional arguments. I think in C, you would just do like transpose equals false. You would set the default up here in the function signature. That makes a lot more sense to me. In Fortran, you don't set the default here. You have like another version of the variable, and it has to have a different name. So that's why I just added an extra underscore. And then you call this built-in present function. Oh, you can't, it's C++, right? C++ has like optional arguments. So we check if it's present. And then if it is, you can set the other version of the variable to the one, which is it the dummy argument or the actual argument? I forget what it's called. C++. So it's just so much boilerplate. Like you have to do this and you have to have another one declared. And the default goes down here. So then if it's transposed, and then you have to be really careful to like not use the argument one, because if you use it here and it's not present, I think the program just crashes. So you have to be really careful to use the correctly named one. So we'll do this and then move it further up and then just return. I think that should work. And then let's test that out. I don't need to do this. So we'll print it normal and then print it. You can either call it like this. I don't like the name. I would really like to name it transpose without an underscore, but then the syntax highlighter is like, hey, this is a function. It might be safe, but you can run into problems where if you have a variable that's the same name as a built-in function, you just can't use the built-in function. So like it will mask things and make your life difficult. So you can do it like this, or you can just give it a Boolean. I prefer the long form. So one that's not transposed, and then one that's transposed. So that seems to work. I don't really need that right now. And I think I can solve part one of the puzzle now. So I want the size of this grid. Size G1. And then this is the other dimension. Now, when I first solved this, I did a recursive search. I think I did it depth first, breadth first should also work. But then when I was doing part two, I realized that you don't need recursion. So I think it's easier to do the one without recursion. And like you don't even need a stack or a queue. You just make one pass over the grid without any arrays. Yeah, I already did this in Syntran. So I'm taking it easy on myself by just doing an easy problem that I already know how to do. I want to loop Y first. This butt is really aggressive. I think I don't need these. Probably don't need a string. So basically, whenever there's a caret, if S is above us, we're going to have a pipe. And then we're going to scan through this array line by line. And whenever we have a caret above and to the right or above and to the left, we're going to fill it in with a pipe. So that's how we can do this in one pass. I guess I need to do the S first. So I'm not even going to solve the problem right away. Like we're supposed to count how many times it gets split. I'm not going to do that immediately. I'm just going to see if I can fill out this grid. And we don't need to scan the first row because nothing is guaranteed. It's guaranteed that nothing will happen in the first row. So we can start that at 2. And I'm not sure about this, but can I just like make this easy and not worry about bounds checking by only scanning 2 to -1? I think it works. Oh. No. No, that's not going to work. All right, never mind. We need bounds checking. So first of all, if the thing immediately above us is S, then we fill in the current location with a pipe. So above us would be Y -1. If that's S, then we fill in a pipe. And then let's print the grid again at the bottom. So we have the initial grid, and then we fill in one pipe because I only checked for S. And then, so I said above and to the right or above and to the left, but that's wrong. If we have a caret directly to the left or directly to the right, then we replace our current position with a pipe. Also, if we have a pipe above us, but I have to skip things that are already carets. So if we have in the current location a caret, then we just continue, but continue in Fortran is called cycle. So I cycle. And then if we have a caret to the left or to the right, we do this. But this needs bounds checking. So let me not do that yet. Okay, this basically does nothing. But I need a way to mark that we got to this thing. Somehow when I golfed this down, why is this warning back? I thought I started this with like the quiet argument. Oh well. Somehow when I golfed it down, I did it without creating any temporary arrays or copies of the character grid. I don't remember how I did that, because I need to know that there's a caret here, but I also need to mark that I got to the caret. I could just use like some other character, but I don't remember having to resort to that hack. Maybe I did make a copy of the array. I don't remember. So G naught, this is going to be an array that we don't modify. And as soon as we read it, we're going to back that up to G naught. It's the original G. I think I saw you name something O. It started with an O. I can't remember what the variable was on your stream. I wouldn't call it OG, though. I call it G naught, because in physics, you typically have like a time t and then a time t naught. So t naught is like the previous time step or whatever. And then you might have x and x naught, or whatever variable. You probably have some other copy of it with a naught at the end. So I think this is somewhat common Fortran convention. So I think I want to check G naught in most of these places. And then the one that we modify is going to be G. Cigarettes. That was a fantastic name. I preferred my suggested name. Did you have one that was sets, and then I said gets, and then you went to cigarettes instead? All right, let me forget about going to the right. Let me just check the one to the left, because there's going to be a little more logic here. So if G naught is a caret, and we got to that caret, gets, oh, gets doesn't rhyme with sets. You're right. I had an argument with a Russian coworker once. There's this proverb or cliche expression: the pen is mightier than the sword, or yeah. So there's no word in the cliched expression. But then he was saying, like, the sword is mightier than the word, or the word is mightier than the sword. And he was like, that rhymes. And I was like, no, it doesn't rhyme. Like, it looks like they rhyme, but those are different consonants. So, yeah, same situation with sets and gets. Okay, so if that's a caret, and we need bounds checking too, so maybe it's time for me to do that. Salmoning?
Wait, what? Am I saying summoning wrong? Is it, hold on. Are you saying that summoning is pronounced actually differently?
Summoning.
That's how I say it. What do you mean? Salmoning? Hold on, and summoning? It's literally like the same.
Summoning.
It's literally the same. What do you mean? I'm not saying it's wrong.
Summoning. Summoning.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Classic. I had not seen that before. Russians are fun. Corporate needs you to find the difference between these two words. They're the same word. So before I check that, I have to do a bounds check on x. So if x is greater than 1, and I can just nest all of these. This is so annoying. Fortran does not have short-circuiting logic. So if you do this, it will probably work if you compile with like release flags, but if you compile with debug flags, this will crash your program. So it will check this and see that it's false, but then it will check this anyway, even though like you have a logical and. It's so annoying. So if you want this to run without crashing with any set of compiler flags, you have to write it like this. It's terrible. So there's that, and I want to check that we got to the caret. Probably don't need a separate if statement for that, because this is no longer a short-circuiting logic issue. Yeah, it's pretty unfortunate. Hey, new Joker, welcome back to the stream. Is that a caret? Can't tell what emoji that is. I was hoping the mouse over would tell me. Let's check it out. Squint? No way is that a squinting face with tongue emoji. That's an AI. Yeah, it's definitely a caret. This is AI hallucination. I don't know how it got that. Computer vision moment. It doesn't look up the character, it just looks at a screenshot of the emoji and tries to figure out what I'm searching for. I have no idea if this will work. I think it should fill out like one line. It will only fill out the line where I have something to the left of the caret. And it didn't work at all. Oh. I don't want to cycle there. Line 44. Well, this is G naught, and this is G. If I picked better variable names, that might have been clear, but that's totally understandable to not be able to parse that. Oh yeah, I knew exactly what you saw, that they're both G. Because you're looking at the indices. Like, you're not looking at the variable name when the variable name is that short. Well, also need to check if there's a pipe above us. So this should at least set a pipe there. Oh, I think I'm going to get a pipe going straight down, all the way down, which is incorrect. Oh. Yeah. So I was half right. It's not the line going to the left, it's the line going to the right. And then I also need to delete the ones that are going straight down. I think somehow I did this without the temporary array, and this is the problem that I golfed. So I had this golfed down fairly shortly without. I don't think I used temporary arrays. So I think there's a cleaner solution, but I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. Oh, hey, Kufiman. We were just talking about you. Anyway, welcome to the stream. So if there's a pipe above us, this logic needs to be a little more involved. Salmoning. And G not equals caret. That should stop the ones from going straight down all the way. There we go. Yeah, so now we have the ones like waterfalling down and to the right. But that's only because I've written half of my code. I could put a for loop and then not double this code, but the easy thing is to just copy and paste this code. So copy and paste that, and then instead of x greater than 1, it's going to be less than nx. And Fortran indexing, the convention is to go from 1 to n, where you're inclusive of 1 and n. But the for loop, the FOUR loop, I need to learn about that syntax. So in this one, we're going to check x plus 1. I think that might be it. Nope. It runs 4 times, nothing to learn. Why doesn't that work? Let me initialize this so I'm not looking at a large random number every time. Oh, because I have to check. I have to copy and paste this as well. No, that's y minus 1. That's not x. I see, because I haven't marked this as a pipe yet, so then I don't end up marking this one. Do I have to do 2 passes? There's some way to do this very efficiently without doing 2 passes. And I don't know how I figured that out before. Maybe I did look up and to the left and up and to the right, because then you can sort of save a step instead of looking directly to the left and directly to the right. So maybe I make it 2 loops like that. I already have an end due. Is that what I want? There we go. Okay. I think that's correct. I'm not going to look at it that closely. And now I have to count the splits. So sum is 0. And I think it's in this condition, we're going to increment the splits. Or maybe it's one of these. Maybe it would work either way. I forget what the right answer is. Can't be 72. It sounds too high. So it should be 21. Oh. No, that's not where I want to increment it. Yeah, I do want to increment it in one of these. Now, this is tricky. I got this wrong the first time I did it because I incremented it here and here, but this is actually double counting the caret because you're to the left of it one time. Does the bounds checking matter? I don't even know if this is right, but if you do this, you're almost double counting every caret, so you only want to do it once. Okay, 21. I think that was correct. You found Syntran. It is ready. It is ready for Advent of Code. But I finished this year, and now I'm actually kind of tired of Syntran, so I'm going back and just doing it directly in Fortran because Fortran is just so fast. I did do every day this year in Syntran. So, and I've done a lot of the previous years. I haven't finished all of these years, so it's not like I have a perfect record of stars. But for 2025, I did every day in Syntran here. And I had to cheat a couple days. I didn't figure all of these out on my own. But like day 10, this was a fun one. That's Fortran. But here, here's the Syntran for part 2. There's no syntax highlighting. If you want to go to my Syntran Explorer, you can get syntax highlighting for free without installing anything. The code editor is just pretending that this is Rust. That's the only way that I got syntax highlighting working. Yeah, so it is ready for AOC. In fact, it's like an AOC-driven language. Every feature that I do for this language, it's pretty much only for the purpose of being able to finish Advent of Code puzzles. So it's good at that, and it's probably not good at much else. Yeah. All right, 21 was correct. And let me fill in these values for unit testing. So that should be 21. And then part 2 is 40, even though we didn't do that yet. And then my answer's 1698. And this huge number. All right, so now I should be able to run and assert that we get the right answer. Part 2 doesn't actually run, so ignore that. I can run part 1 only, and there we go. Yeah, that's that. And then will it work for the real input? Seems to work, 1698. Just to double check. Yeah, that's right. Okay, now part 2. For part 2, you can do this as well with 1 or 2, or like maybe I'm doing 4 passes here because I loop over every row twice. You can do it in just 1 or 2, but I think I'm going to take 4 passes. First, I'm going to mark this like we just did in part 1, and then I'm going to update some counts. So mark this in the first pass, and then in a second pass, count like how many different ways can we get to that point. Like you can get here one way, and then we're going to have an integer grid instead of a character grid, or we're going to have an integer grid in addition to a character grid. So whenever you have a point here, you're going to sum up the number of ways to get to this point and the number of ways to get to that point, and that's how many ways you can get here. Or do I look above and to the right, or do I just look directly to the right? I might have done it slightly differently, but maybe it will. There should be multiple ways to solve this. All right, so part 2. I think I'll save my commit until we're finished. Run. I think I could have just added dot because I have everything else get ignored. Okay, part 2. I'll take part 1 and copy that. Oh, but I have to uncomment the call to part 2. All right, why? Because I'm only running part 1. There we go. So of course the answer for part 2 is wrong because we haven't done it yet. This can be compacted. All right. So this is the first pass. We're still going to do this from part 1. And then we're going to make a second pass and use an integer grid where we sum up the counts. I think it's a huge number, so I think it has to be a 64-bit or an 8-byte integer. Yeah, that's huge. So this is an 8-byte integer array. It's going to be the integer grid, IG. And then I have to allocate that. Or no, I could just initialize it all to zeros. Do I have this? I might need to write this. Yeah, I have to write this. I have one for 32 bits. 32-bit. Do I? It's not here. I'm just not using the module. So floats, single floats and double floats, and then 32, but the only one I don't have is 64-bit integers, so I have to make that. I only really need matrices for now, but I should do vectors as well. So where's the vector one? So we have the matrix one, and then I want to find, whoa, that's not how I type. Vec. Let me just put them next to each other. And then I can copy both of these for 64-bit integers. And then the integers, these declarations have to be 8 bits. I think that should work. The linter isn't complaining anymore, and nope. Right, it's allocatable. That works. Okay, so that's initialized to zeros. Print print mat. I think I need to make this one too. It's not even in here, it's in utils. Do I have? No, I don't have the 64-bit one. I'm gonna need this eventually, so it's good that I'm making it now. And of course I have a big old to-do note, which I'm just copying and pasting for every version of this function. This is why Fortran should have generics, but the Fortran generics are only as good as the C generics, unfortunately. All right, so we have a grid of zeros, and then I'm gonna sum these up. I think they're not that big. It's up to like 40. So it's not that big for the test input. That means I don't have to format these integers to be any wider, because this is gonna break for the real input. It's gonna be like 10 digits long, and this just won't be printable. You're gonna see some weird characters. So how do I do the second pass? It's logically pretty similar to the control flow of here, except instead of setting characters, we're going to be like adding integers. Hopefully I can figure out how to do that. So if we're to the, no, this is above. I think it's, no, I think we have to increment it, because you might have something above you and you might have a caret to your left or right. So we have to increment the current value plus gxy minus 1. I think that's the logic. These are, yeah, those are characters. All right, there we go. And then similar idea for this, I think we want to increment instead of setting a character. So IG equals IG plus IGX minus 1. I think that's what I want. And then we want the other version of that. Plus IGX plus 1. And then the answer is going to be the sum of the bottom row. So sum equals the sum of the bottom row. I think that's the right way to do the sum. I'm not sure about this logic. This might not be right, but I think it's at least close. We're expecting 40 for the test input for part 2. There we go. That's the right answer. Let me check it on the real input. It's printing a lot of stuff, and it takes a little time, apparently. Oh, we got a number. 9.5. It must be right if the assert passed. Cool. Yep, that's it. I'm going to make a commit here, but I'm going to wrap up the stream soon here. So a little bit of a shorter stream tonight. Maybe I'll look for someone to raid, but let me get this committed first. Oh, and I don't want to print all this, at least not for the real input. So let's clean up all of the logging. That should run a little more cleanly, and it should run pretty fast as well, like a third of a second, apparently. And this is just, okay, more like 10 milliseconds, 14 milliseconds. And this is just the debug profile. So there's not a lot of room for improvement. It's probably not going to be much faster than that. Again, there's no recursion here. I just make like 4 passes over the thing. I'm pretty sure it can be done more efficiently. Maybe we'll go back and review my Syntran code to see how I did it with potentially fewer operations. Let's see if this can be any faster. So if I turn on release configuration, has to recompile. It was actually slower. We had 14 milliseconds one time. Maybe the kernel, yeah, there we go. The kernel just needs to warm up. So now it's 12 milliseconds. 11, 11. A little bit slower sometimes, but can be 11 milliseconds. And the timing is only timing the Fortran program. It's not timing the compilation. Not bad. I think I don't have any untracked files. Let me add this to my tests. And I need to have better tests, but for now I just do a lot of copy pasting. This is another thing I did today. I added tests and CI/CD. Probably overkill for an Advent code project, but it's kind of fun. We have to decrypt everything with my secrets in the cloud, and then I think day 11 was weird because it had a different test input for part 2. But when that's not the case, this can be done a little more simply. So it runs the test input, and then it runs the real input. We can even do the long form of the arguments here. So that should work. I'll give it a quick local test here. Something didn't work. Oh, it's not day 12, it's day 7. That's the problem. So this is day 7. I don't know why it didn't cache more things. I'm surprised it reran the other days. I have run this recently. Yeah, why? I legit don't understand why that's not caching more. And why is it rebuilding this every time? Some of this is a mystery. So it built everything here with debug. And then it did not have to recompile the library here, so that's good. It only compiled the main program. But this is the whole point of my build system. I don't want to recompile the library every day, and I'm not sure why it did right here. I don't know, but everything is green, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. Oh, no, it's because of my Fortran flags. We added this implicit none. And only day 7 has the implicit interface, whatever it is. W error equals implicit interface. This one compiler flag, or all of these actually, are different. I didn't have this line for the other days. So those are different. That means CMake has to rebuild. I think that's why that happened. Day 7. And this was good. We added like a bunch of utils, helpers. Yeah, something in there, and some zeros for this linear algebra library. Basic, very basic linear algebra. Everything should pass here too. I might not necessarily watch that. Let's see if I should do a raid. And then I'm going to wrap up this stream. We've got j.w. I don't know if I'll wait for ads. It's 30 seconds. I can start the raid. Raid j.w. So, yeah, I might give it another 20 seconds for this ad to finish, and then I'll start the raid. Thanks to everybody who tuned in. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you next time. Bye.
Can you stop? No, you're stuck doing this. Why is that coming up constantly for this? I don't get it. It's trying to call the /agent, and that's where it's all firing up. Yeah. Okay. That's right. Framework switching is on every other Friday, and it is always a Friday because I spend the week trying to make it work and then fail. Jeff Owen, thank you for the raid. Welcome. How are you, folks, and what have you been up to? Welcome to us banging our head against this refactor. Let's just get rid of this. This is such old code.